I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. This topic comes from my 30 plus years of business, sales, and freight moving success. Watch, learn, and apply it. You'll move more freight efficiently, effectively, effortlessly, and make more money financially. And call me at 626-309-9141 with any questions. Now explode your business with...
Hello and welcome everybody to my Tuesday conference call. I'm Ted Keys, your host and top freight agent training expert here in Southern California. Today I'll show you how to move more freight efficiently, effectively, and effortlessly so you make more money financially. And after the call today, go to my website, tedkeysonline.com, to hear more of my podcasts, read more of my blog posts, watch more of my videos, and while you're there, visit my Freight Sales Success Store for top-notch freight moving products to explode your business today. And if you have any questions today, any questions regardless of what it is, or specifically, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Then give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141. Today's topic is how to assist your freight prospects, how to truly assist your freight prospects. So for those of you that are on my contact list, just go to any one of those email invites that I sent you today, scroll down to the bottom, and we will go over our topic today, how to assist your freight prospects. There's a correct way and an incorrect way to assist your freight prospects. I'm going to go over today the correct way to do that. And how do we do that? First of all, we have to determine whether our prospects are or our decision makers. We have to determine first if they are prospects whose freight, or even if they have freight for us to move. So anyway, just go open up that first attachment. Just again, scroll down, open up that first attachment, and we're going to go over how to assist your freight prospects. The main point I'm going to make here today, guys, is successful freight sales agents must always, not just sometimes, but you've got to always follow the mantra, always be assisting. Always be assisting. So then what on earth does that mean to always be assisting? Well, in the past, all right, the always be closing, you've probably heard that many times before, the always be closing school of thought that some of us have been taught, I included, it ignores your freight prospects requirements entirely, and it places you, which it shouldn't, but it's going to place you, the freight sales agent, at the center of the sales process that you're having with your prospects and your customers. And it also takes a brute force approach while attempting to move your customers' freight, okay? So just a little history. That's what a lot of us old timers have been taught. It's to always be closing, always be closing. Well, just so you know, this outdated mentality, for the most part, it doesn't work anymore in our freight sales marketplace. Why? It's because the balance of power now has been tipped away from the freight sales agent and more toward your freight prospect. How has it done that? Well, with more available online now, and the ability to tap into third-party reviews, which there are a ton of them out there, freight prospects nowadays are way more savvier today than ever before. So high pressure selling just doesn't work anymore, because it treats your freight prospects as interchangeable piles of money. So then what's a freight sales agent to do? That's the main question I'm going to ask you. What's a freight sales agent to do when the closing mentality, or this old closing mentality, just doesn't work anymore? Well, hang tighter. First, realize that your freight prospects' challenges and requirements are as diverse as the prospects themselves. And boy, are they diverse, because there are so many different companies out there now requiring freight services. And I said they're so diverse because our industry and our world, it just keeps changing, where more and more items and products are added to the marketplace. And while one customer might be successful with your freight service may damage your reputation with another. Your profession, of course, it still requires you to sell your freight service, but abandon any strategies that involve force-feeding freight prospects a service that they don't want or require. Now, Dale Carnegie, he's the author of Think and Grow Rich. He once famously said that is so prominent in the marketplace now. And really remember this, even as you go out shopping yourself, and just think about this quote that he has. And he said, people don't like to be sold to. They just don't. Think about going into a retail store or a car dealership and all these folks hounding you, asking you, how are you today? Can I help you with anything? In general, us individuals, us human beings, we don't like to be sold to, but we want to feel like we're doing the buying. So basically that quote goes, people don't like to be sold to, they want to feel like they're doing the buying. We want to feel as human beings that we're in control of the buying process. So as your freight prospect, all right, as they move through your freight sales funnel, provide resources and guidance as they attempt to solve a complicated freight moving challenge. Again, that's the main thing. You've got to dig deep and find out what their challenges are. Hence the saying goes, always be assisting, as I discussed this earlier, especially when it requires you to do the assisting. Again, that's what this is all about, how to assist your freight prospects, not how to smother them and just pellet them with, how good you are or how great your company is, but it's how to always assist your freight prospects. Hence, always be assisting. So I'm going to go over 3 questions that all freight sales agents must ask in this age, not the past age, but in this current age of always be assisting. So here's 3 questions to ask to always be assisting. The first question you're going to ask to know whether you will assist this individual or not, your prospect or your customer, is do your freight prospects, all right, do your freight prospects have a freight moving challenge that you can actually solve? Do your freight prospects have a challenge that you can actually solve? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. So if your freight prospect has a challenge completely out of sync with what your freight service offers, and again, what your niche is, whatever that is, then get out. I mean, basically, if they're offering you to solve a challenge, you specialize in this, but they want you to go on the other end of the spectrum. If that's not what you do, I'm just going to say, just let them know, hey, I that is not my specialty. Just get out, leave the question to them, and you know what? They'll be on their way. Why? Because there's more than enough freight to move in your particular niche. Don't ever think that, hey, reefer freight, is going down, so I've got to get out of this. I'm going to give you an example, and again, it's based on reefer freight. So your main specialty, like I just said, is moving reefer freight. Well, your freight prospect is going to ask you for a rate on a walking floor trailer. I mean, does anybody even know what that is? Do you even know what that is? A walking floor trailer. I can relate to a walking floor because, again, I was born and raised on a farm in Wisconsin. Okay, walking floors are typically for dirt. It's particularly for bulk items, all right? And it has this floor that either vibrates or it just slowly moves the commodity to the back. Now, reefer freight and walking floor, are those two the same? No, they're very, very different, okay? So why get out? Just after giving you that explanation, so why get out? Well, it's because you're not going to assist everybody, and you shouldn't be attempting to either. As I said, if you know reefer, then stick with reefer. If somebody comes in from left field and says, hey, can you give me a rate on this walking floor load? Just kindly let them go. And hey guys, I tell you this because I speak from experience. You don't want to get off on these rabbit trails thinking, oh boy, there's a great commodity to pursue, or there's a great trailer type to pursue. Stick with what you know. Attempting to connect with shipping decision makers that don't require your freight service is like throwing money down the toilet. So picking and choosing who to assist is a significantly better use of your time, especially while you're making those significant inroads in your industry, which, by the way, in this example is reefer freight. So when you pick your freight prospects correctly, you'll have no problem hitting your sales goal every month, all right? Again, if your specialty is reefer, just stick with reefer. And spending the same amount of effort on every freight prospect, no matter how qualified or unqualified they are, is a surefire way to continually miss the mark. As I said earlier, don't get off on these rabbit trails. Just stay on what your niche is and continue to pursue that niche. I mean, if you're actually getting tired of your niche, well, okay, then I can see you going off. But if you're doing well in that niche, just focus on that niche, okay? Not only is it a bad use of your time, but attempting to sell to prospects without freight moving challenges that you can solve is also a bad experience for that non-qualifying prospect. I will say this, however, if it's your true desire, as I talked about earlier, if it's your true desire to get into the walking floor freight area, then pursue it, okay? If not, then stick with what you're good at, what your niche is, and again, in this case, if you're good at moving reefer freight, then stick with reefer freight. So the first question you have to ask, as I said earlier, is, do your freight prospects have a freight moving challenge that you can solve, one that you're familiar with? That's the first question you have to ask, okay? The second question you have to ask is, where exactly are your freight prospects in the decision-making process, all right? And that's something that you have to figure out. Let me say that again. Where exactly are your freight prospects in the decision-making process? Now, the conversations you engage in and the questions you ask your freight prospects vary significantly, and they'll always vary significantly on what point you're at in their, not yours, but their decision-making journey. So there's three questions that you're gonna ask, or three related issues that you're gonna ask in this area of where are they in the freight decision making process. The first question you're gonna ask yourself is your freight prospect in the awareness stage? And again, I'm gonna go over three stages, okay, when it deals with where are they in the decision making process. So the first question is your freight prospect in the awareness stage, all right? Well, what's the awareness stage? Well, this is when your freight prospect knows they have a challenge to solve, all right? Something's come up, they've got a challenge to solve. Bear with me. But they haven't decided on a solution or even begun to do any freight service research. Freight sales agents, us freight sales agents, usually aren't involved in this awareness stage. Why? Because it's something that may have just popped up, okay? Unless you've already made contact with this decision maker. If you've already made contact with them and you continue to make contact, who do you think is going to come to mind with this reefer load that's popped up and you do reefer freight? So when you reach out to a freight prospect who's in this stage, it's extremely important to ask the required questions, as I always talk about, to determine that you have the solutions for your freight prospect. So that first question is your freight prospect in the awareness stage, where just something has popped up out of the blue? Your freight prospect is now aware of this. So then, let me ask you this. Is your freight prospect in the consideration stage? So the first is the awareness stage. The second is the consideration stage. Well, what is the consideration stage? This is where your freight prospect is aware of their challenge, okay? Something's popped up, they've got a challenge, and is committed to spending time and effort on a solution. That is a consideration stage. And at this point, great freight sales agents will ask the required questions to gain a resolution, all right? and provide their freight prospect with the answer they're searching for, thus taking the top consideration spot, okay? You want to be in there when they're in this consideration stage. Now, if you're not, it's understandable, but boy, if they're in this consideration stage, again, they require a reefer trailer, and you call and say, hey, I specialize in reefer. Well, who do you think is going to get the attention? Now, yeah, they may have some reefer carriers and reefer, freight so-called experts on their list, but this, when you come in the consideration stage, do you think they're going to consider you and put you on their freight on their freight list? Absolutely. So again, first one is awareness, second one is consideration. Lastly, talking about stages, lastly, is your freight prospect in the decision stage. So we got awareness, we got consideration, we've got the decision stage, all right? And this is when your freight prospect has thoroughly researched their challenges and their solutions. You absolutely want to be there when they're in this decision stage. And they may not have a specific freight broker in mind yet, but your company will be a huge consideration if you've been in constant contact with them. Again, when I mean constant contact, I mean 2-3 contacts a week, asking them what they're moving, and your freight, and they have your freight moving resources. So not only have you been in contact with them, they also have your resources and the solutions that you provide for their challenges. So the second question you have to ask yourself, guys, is, again, where are your freight prospects in the decision-making stage? Once you determine that, then you can assist them, all right? But you've got to determine where they are, all right? So, third question you have to ask yourself. Third question you have to ask yourself is your buying process easy for your freight prospects? Remember, this is all about assisting your freight prospects. And not only that, but always be assisting them. The third question you have to ask is your buying process easy for your freight prospects? Is it easy for them to utilize? The biggest question I can ask is are you easy to get a hold of? All right. I mean, this boils down to the nitty gritty. When they require a rate, are you answering the phone? When they require a rate, are you answering your emails? Because I'll tell you this, when you answer your emails as soon as that rate request goes out, you will be a top consideration. Of course, you got to get on that freight list to begin with. But anyway, always be assisting. All right, always be assisting is giving up control of the buying process. It doesn't mean that freight sales agents are obligated to let your prospects drive the bus. Okay, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're giving up full control. What you have to do is you have to strike a balance between how your freight prospects require the process to play out and use your expertise to guide them in the right direction. You see, your value in the sales process is that you've successfully sold your freight service many times before. That's the value that you bring to the table. And not only that, but it's got to be to numerous. When you've done this, when you've gone through this rodeo, okay, when you've successfully sold your freight service to numerous prospects, that puts you in the driver's seat. So work with your freight prospects to understand their decision-making process, and then use that information to sell your freight service successfully. I mean, that's the easiest way I can put it in a nutshell. Because freight prospects, they must feel, okay, the first thing is they must feel like they're being heard and respected, and forcing some type of cookie cutter sales process on them just doesn't work anymore. And wouldn't you agree? I mean, here somebody is trying to stuff you into a box saying, hey, you only can do it my way. Well, what do you think you're going to do when that happens to you? You're going to take off, because not everybody's personality is going to fit with, the box that they have that you're going to be stuffed into. So again, the third question to ask is your buying process easy for your freight prospects? And again, just narrowing it down to the nitty gritty, Because a lot of this comes down to somebody needs a rate, your prospect, your customer requires a rate. Where are you in responding? Okay, that's the biggest example that I can get. I mean, do you respond a day later? Well, if you are, you're not getting any freight. Are you responding 6 hours later? If you are, you're not moving any freight. Are you responding an hour later? High probability that you're still not moving freight. How easy is it for you to get a hold of? If you're responding within 5 minutes like I do, high probability that you are moving that prospect or that customer's freight. So again, question number 3, is your buying process easy for your freight prospects? As I said earlier, always be assisting freight sales agents must establish trust and confidence before they can close any freight deal. And again, just boiling down to this, getting back to this third question, trust and confidence will come in handy. It will build when you're responding immediately to your prospects and your customers' requests. The era of the intimidating, fear-inducing, always be closing guys, these freight sales agents, it's officially over, and that's a good thing, because what does it do? It weeds out the competition, plain and simple. If you're one of the first to responding, who do you think's going to get the attention? You or somebody that's responding an hour or 3 hours later? So again, those 3 questions to ask. Hang tighter. The first question is, do your freight prospects have a freight moving challenge that you can solve? You got to determine this before you do any assisting. Second question is, where exactly are your freight prospects in the decision-making process? Are they in the awareness stage? Are they in the consideration stage? Are they in the decision stage? And believe me, you want them in either the consideration or the decision stage. However, the more folks you talk to, the higher your probability of moving their freight. Third question is your buying process easy for your freight prospects? Are you attempting to shove them into a box, or are you allowing yourself to be flexible and dealing with all your prospects and your customers' requirements in this area? Those are the 3 questions that you have to ask and fulfill before you do any assisting. In concluding today, let me ask you this again. Do you have any questions about what I went over today, or more specifically, are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Hey, you can see right here from the call that I give, free information. Are you ready to join our top producing freight sales team? Yes, and give me a call, Ted Keys. I'm at 626-309-9141. Again, I am delighted to have you on my call today. I will be even more delighted when I hear and see you next week on my Tuesday conference call, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Get on my contact list and receive my email invite that I will get out to you just by doing that. Take care. God bless. I'll see you all again next week on my Tuesday conference call. Bye-bye. When you arrive at my Freight Sales Success Store today, you'll see a host of products available there for purchase. First one you'll see available is my flagship product. That is my Freight Sales Success Guide, typically for beginner and struggling freight agents. If you're searching for that daily motivation to set goals, to achieve them, to pick up the phone daily and connect and build relationships with the marketplace, then opt for my Freight Sales Success Quotes. And if you're searching for those specific skills, and there are many skills, many individual skills required to be successful in this profession, then opt for my Freight Sales Success Skill. I highly recommend each one of these products, available for purchase today in my Freight Sales Success Store. Do you have any questions again? Do you have any questions about today's call? Or more importantly, are you ready for my top producing one-on-one personal freight sales, freight broker training? Then give me, Ted Keys, a call. I'm at 626-309-9141. Great topic for today. Take these skills, apply them. You'll be amazed at what happens to your results.